conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's a life coach, spiritual midwife, and a voice activator for faith filled women. And other than Miss Kristin Kurtz.
Thank you for having me on, Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Christine on Abstract Cafe. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, so I currently live in Minnesota in the Midwest. It's cold and snowing here today. I am, as he said, a life coach and a spiritual midwife, which for some, hearing a spiritual midwife, what is a spiritual midwife? Well, God really called me to help women birth, like what He has for them, whether it's a business or a ministry or maybe a book that they have, maybe a podcast. Because a lot of times, you know, even on my website, it says to help you get unlocked, to help unlock what's inside you. A lot of times we don't know even what's inside of us. If you've seen that, I think you can like look on, if you're inside of a jar, you can't really see the ingredients on the outside, right? So I get to come alongside women and help them birth what the Lord has called them to birth. And I like to say, I want to make sure that they don't self-abort what they're called to bring to the world. Because a lot of times, women, men, of course, too, but a lot of women that I work with have a lot of doubt. They hear voices come for them like, oh, you're not good enough, or you don't have what it takes. So that kind of explains a little bit about the spiritual midwife. I get to be that safe place for them to just discover what it is that they're, pregnant with, because we do have things within us that God has called us to bring to this world. So I just thought I'd explain a little bit about that.
Certainly, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world and empowering women all over the world. We salute you for doing that, Miss Christine. So
Thank
today,
you.
let's talk about when obedience costs your safety, living the secure life to answer higher call.
Yes.
Before, yes, before costs become clear, what did safety and security look like for you? Paint us a picture of life you were expected to live.
Yes. Well, if you're listening in today, I just want you to kind of imagine some of these places that are safe for you. I found myself working in a corporate position for a couple decades, and I received a couple paychecks a month. I knew what was coming. I knew I had, healthcare benefits. I had a 401k to help me prepare for the future for when I was going to retire. So it was safe, it was secure. I knew what was coming. And I think a lot of times, if you think of even, when I was in high school, kind of this idea like if you go to college, get a good job, then you retire. It's kind of like the progression through life of safety. And I found myself just, I actually even have a tattoo on my arm of a bird cage. I felt like I was literally in a cage and my wings were clipped. And the cage was safe because I was getting fed every day, I was getting water every day. But inside, I felt like I was dying. And the flip side of that, I believe, when we are outside of our true calling, when we're outside of the identity that God put within us to bring to this world, it will kill you. And to me, that became unsafe. So there was this whole paradigm shift that I started walking through. I would say probably about 2018. I started recognizing that I'm not in the right position. So I was very out of alignment, even though it was safe.
Interesting, Miss Christine. Were there specific moment, a holy discontent, or where a secure life you were living began to feel like a gilded cage, as you said?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was around 2018. I felt this pressure. I feel like my wings were clipped and I was meant to fly. Like I was meant to be out of a cage flying, just kind of like think of like an eagle. If it's put in a cage, it's out of its element. It's supposed to be soaring free. So I started to realize through even, becoming a coach. I feel like I've been a coach my whole life, but I officially was certified as a coach in 2017. And through working with women, I think what I started to recognize even too was that I was called to help women live out their purpose and recognizing, oh my gosh, I'm not even living out my own purpose. So there became this progression of knowing that I was going to leave, but it was going to take, honestly, it was going to take a miracle. I called it like, it's going to take a move of God for this to happen. And there was definitely some things that happened in 2020 and 2021. We saw things happening in the world, and I think a lot of people just really started to kind of look at their lives and go, what's most important in my life? I really wanted to live a life of purpose, to impact people, and recognizing that the work that I was doing, even though I, did a great job, I was an expert in what I was called to do at that job, but I wasn't fulfilling that purpose. So I honestly, I just kept praying, Lord, like, help me to get unlocked from this position, whatever that looks like. And there were some things that caused me to say, wow, this not only is this position out of alignment, but the integrity of the company was out of alignment with my, morals, values. And I just felt like, wow, it's time for me. There was kind of this word I felt like God gave me was, it's time to cut the cord to the system. And really, there was a moment where I was like, okay, Lord, I really need you to show me like a clear sign. So when I heard that, I'll just give you a little testimony because I think it's really incredible that we can ask for these confirmations when we're in a big moment like this. That is like a huge leap of faith, right? And I just said, okay, God, if this is really what you want me to do, I need you to show me a clear sign. And as I was walking on a path that same day, right after asking for this sign, there was broken chains on the road right in front of me. And I knew, like at that very moment, this was the time. It was time for me to go. It was time to come out of the cage and fly free. But there was a process right after that as well.
Indeed, there's a process, people. Process.
Yeah.
Often these calls don't come out of nowhere. Looking back, what does
Mhm.
God or the universe doing in the season leading up to this big decision to prepare you?
Mhm. Well, honestly, a big part of me getting, I like to say, free from where I was to where I am now, there was a process that I learned, like, we can't always just eject. I guess you want to say, like, eject before it's time. And I knew that there was a timing to when I was to leave because there are times we're called to be places that maybe aren't fully in alignment, but we're there for a reason. Maybe we're there to impact somebody within an organization. Maybe we're there to help, be a change maker in maybe a job. Because for me, it was like, okay, you are called to leave the job system. I am an entrepreneur through and through, but there's a timing to it. So, um, I hope that helps a little bit. The process of it was very challenging, but I was thankful to have, people in my life to walk alongside me and, remind me of truth. And but it also was this process for me to then I've literally walked it out, pun intended, like I've literally walked out of safety so that I can now walk alongside other women. Now, maybe some women are not called to leave jobs. Maybe some of them are called to be in a job and also like maybe have a business on the side or write a book on the side. But I think at times what I've realized, even over myself, was that there's times where when you're in a job and it's really stressful and maybe you have a family like I do, that you kind of come to the end of the day and you're just spent, you're tired, and you don't have a lot of extra energy to expend out into, creating something else besides a job. And so that's where it's kind of helping these women to recognize like what is your season? What are you called to do next? But my heart is that there's always more. There's always going to be more. And even that progression of, go to college, get a job, retire. I kind of have a counterculture mindset to that, that if you're doing what you're called to and you love it, you you probably aren't going to retire. I like to say you're going to refire. Isn't that fun?
Certainly, refire. I like that word, Miss Christine. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the nature of the call and the conflict. How
Mhm.
did the higher call make itself known to you? What is the gradual whisper or sudden roar, or something in between?
Yeah. So I would say it was a culmination of both. Now, when I mentioned it was March of 2021, I did get that roar. I was on a walk and I heard like that still small voice from God, and I heard go, and I knew that that was in relation to this yearning to leave a job, to fully be an entrepreneur. But I did have, my husband. I have a husband, and I knew that we needed to be in agreement for what I was going to do. And I'll never forget. I felt this go, and my husband said no. And my joke is that, God said go, husband said no, and I said oh. I'm like, oh, okay. But then there was some circumstances that happened at the position I was in, and I just knew that go that I heard in March, 6 months later, heard it again. And then I mentioned it to my husband, and he said, just quit, just quit based on what we're seeing here. And that's where I knew, like, even though I got to go 6 months earlier, there was a little bit of a waiting period. And I like to call that wait training, WAIT training, because not everything happens like this. Like, our society is, very quick, like, let's get this done now. But again, there was this timing to it. And yeah, along the way, I feel like that still small voice, the whispers along the way just helped me keep going in the midst of just this inner yearning. And like, if you've ever seen a bird with their wings kind of clipped, they just look so uncomfortable. And that's what I was. I was so uncomfortable. And I just knew I needed to fly free. And it was like, God, it was like, you can do this. We can do this. You can do this. Every day it would be like, I would go into the job knowing, okay, there's a purpose to this. There's a reason I'm here. And there will be an exit plan at some point, which is what happened eventually.
Very well said, Miss Christine. What was the single scariest or most costly aspect of saying yes? The loss of income, reputation, community approval, or something else entirely?
Yeah, I would say the biggest piece of it was the loss of income for sure. Um, in the world sense, I was kind of the breadwinner in the family. And when you go from, six figures guaranteed, plus all the great benefits, that people literally did not really leave this job because of that. It's a huge trust. I like to say like a trust fall journey. If you've ever seen people who stand in front of you and you tell them to like fall back and you're supposed to catch them, you have to like just know. And like for me, I just knew that God would take care of my family. But at times it's been a roller coaster. I don't have a 401k anymore. We actually used that to pay um, kind of fund me for the first year after leaving the job. But that's where it's like I've come out of expectation that I need to have a huge 401k to be secure and safe, in my older age. Not to say that, it's a bad thing to have a 401k. I know that that will get built back up again, but yeah, it's definitely a loss of income. I worked for, from the time I was 14 to 44, 30 years. And it was definitely an adjustment for sure, because when you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, it's not always guaranteed income like you have at a job, right?
Indeed, Miss Christine, when you told to the people closest to you about your decision, what was the hardest thing to hear from them? Was their concern, their skepticism, or their silence?
That's a really good question, because I like to attribute this to, and even something that I share with clients and people that I just talked to, and this might resonate with somebody who's hearing today. But for me, I had to like be obedient to what God said to do. And then we have people in our lives who, I call them the but what if people, and they're very well-meaning, and I have very well-meaning people in my life. When you're stepping off what I called a cliff and expecting a backpack to be on your back, when you have people coming to you being like, oh, what if what if this, or what if this happens? What's your plan B? And what I always say is we have to be so secure in, what we know to be doing. So because I was, and I knew this was God's plan for my life, I think there were quite a few people that were like, wow, you're kind of crazy, or that doesn't really make sense, or I didn't have a lot of people like poking at me, I guess you could say. Thank God. But I do know that there's a lot of people out there who have made big decisions like this, and they get a lot of backlash for it. So like I said, I always say, like, you got to make sure that you're listening to that, but God said. I imagine it like a marathon. Like when I left the job, it was like, okay, this is the starting line. And as you're running along a marathon, I've never run a marathon. I probably never will, but I can imagine like there's these points, 10 miles in, you're like, wow, it's been a month. And all these people are like, what are you doing? Like, who do you think you are? And I do even still, like, how are things going in your business? And are you making as much money as you did in your corporate job? And there can be times where, again, you have to be so secure in, safety, the safety of within God's plan, not like a job's plan for you, if that's where you're called out of. So, I would say, thankfully, I didn't get a ton of backlash, but even if I would have, if you've ever heard that terminology of like, just let it run off your back like a duck, that's kind of where I was at. I was like, nothing's gonna stop me.
Only don't care what people say about you. Go, go, go.
Go, go, go. Yeah.
Yes. Because people around you, they want you to fail. They don't want you to succeed 100%. Only the
Mhm.
people love you
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the navigating the wilderness. Take us
Mm.
to a low point in the journey. Was there a moment you felt you made a terrible mistake and wanted to turn back?
There has been moments that, for those of you who, are Christians, such as myself, there's the voice of the devil that will come at you and say, you're going to lose everything. So speaking of like kind of the pointing and the nudging at you, like, oh, you're on the wrong track. There have been moments where we've just had some really challenging financial situations where I would even wake up in the middle of the night in dreams, and I would just kind of hear this like accusatory voice, like, you're going to lose everything and it's all your fault. Like, you made this choice. you're gonna like this is gonna be all your fault. Your family's gonna be out on the streets. You know what I mean? Like, but I knew like this is not, there's no, this is what I say. There's no U-turns. Like there's no U-turns when you know and you know and you know the path like that God has you on. And there have been
Mm-hmm.
moments where, in the Bible, the Israelites were freed from Egypt and they were provided, they were in the wilderness for 40 years and they were provided manna from heaven. Their clothes didn't wear out. They were healthy. They didn't get sick. And yet there was this yearning for what was. They wanted like the meat and but yet they were in slavery. So for me, I just have always kept that as like the focal point of knowing like where I was is not where I'm called to go. I need to stop looking back if that, moment comes up and to keep my face forward, towards the future of I call the promised land. The promised land is up ahead, even though you might be experiencing some wilderness moments, right?
Mm-hmm. Certainly, yes. Certainly, Miss Christine. Looking back, what's the difference between foolishness and faith in situation like this? How can a person know which one they are acting on?
Yeah. Well, it can go several different ways, kind of like I shared earlier. Like I knew and I knew and I knew that this was a step of faith that God was calling me to. Did it look foolish to people? And did it even look foolish to me? And it still sometimes does. I'm like, wow, this is, on paper, it looks pretty foolish. What I would say is have people like you need to have people in your corner that help you to discern like your next step. Because we can act on impulses. For me, like had I had a choice, like at that moment, like 2018, the foolish thing at that point would have been to just quit and walk away because it wasn't the timing. It wasn't my timing yet to walk away from the job. But it can look foolish. Like, honestly, it can look really foolish on paper. But that step of faith, like, there's a verse in the Bible, it's Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, and it's, we can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps. So that's what I just look to. It's like, okay, I might have this plan, but when is that first step? What is the next step? And it might just be literally one day, one step at a time. We probably aren't going to have the whole picture.
Very well said, Miss Christine. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season. Abstract poetry in third season, and of course, my book 101 review in sixth season two, comedy 101 fourth season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 our fifth season, science 101, sex 101, and it's fifth season or fourth season, and my baby podcast trivia 101, motivation 101, spiritual awakening 101, entrepreneurship 101, law 101, mental health 101, coaching 101, and of course Bible verses 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So Miss Christine, if you could go back and have conversation with you standing at the crossroad before you left the secure
Mhm.
life, what would you say?
Jump. You can fly. You've
Yes.
got wings to fly.
Jump and fly. Why not?
Mhm.
Spread your wings and fly away.
Yes.
Wow, good job, Miss Christine. And congratulations
Thank
for
you.
your success.
Thank
And
you.
can you please invite the listeners to support your advocacy or business or whatever you want
Yeah.
to promote on Africa?
Yes, absolutely. So if you wanted to reach out, my website is New Wings Coaching, NEW Wings, WINGS, coaching, COACHING.net. And you can find, I have a podcast called Hope Unlocked and my new book, Fit for the Call. So if you wanted to reach out and you feel that stirring for the more and, want to have a spiritual midwife in your corner, feel free to book a free call with me. Would love to chat with you and see if we're a good fit. So thank you again, Daniel.
No worries at all. I'm inviting you to be part of my book One Wonder Bee and let's talk about your new book. Let's promote it, Miss Kristin. I'm gonna invite you tonight. I'm hoping for our third, fourth, fifth episode. Please do come over to my Bible Verses 101 and let's talk about your favorite Bible verse in the Bible.
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
great.
Miss Kristin.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yes, no worries. Hoping for more and more episodes that will come and be my regular guest on my podcast.
That'd
Yes,
be great.
people,
Thank you.
so let's support Miss Kristin Kurtz because if you support her for sure, more and more empowering women will rise. So, Miss Kristin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Mighty God, people, see you soon.